So this project, we're going to be making a platform for a couple of compressors that are going to drive the automatic tool changer, or the ATC, on the shop bot. And plus, I want to do some special features to the platform in the sense of making the compressors a little more vibration friendly because of how I'm going to pipe the air supply. In terms of how the piping is going to run, I want to minimize how much vibration the tools will actually be feeling. So what we're going to do is take a look at what I've got, and we will begin drawing the platform that we're going to make to rest these two compressors on. Let's move on. Okay, so it's been unintentionally about 5 days since I completed the tape and the putty work, and just life got in the way, work got in the way, obviously doing things that actually pay the bills day to day. So I am about to test this. I've got plenty of PSI in both tanks to know whether or not this is going to work. So I'm just going to plug a hose right into here. Okay. I'm going to open the valves. And we're going to know. Okay. Yeah, well, we know that's going to leak. So no trouble with that. All I hear is the air coming out of the small hose. None of this is leaking. So the combination of the tape and the compound worked. The mistake I was making is I wasn't turning the tape in the proper orientation. It needs to be rotated towards you because you're going to tighten this way. When you're tightening this way, the tape needs to be brought towards you because you're tightening this way. That makes perfect sense. So I don't have a leak anywhere. I'm thrilled with that, actually. Okay, so the original purpose of this video was building our platform. That's been mission accomplished. We've piped this. Now the next thing I'm actually going to do is two things. I'm going to set up my auto drain system on both of the units. I'm going to pipe them, or I should say tube them, outside the building, and then the water runoff for the ATC, I'm going to also connect to that, so I can just bleed that water outside at any time. So that's going to be what I do next. Well, that will be one of the things I do next. I'm also going to run this pipe up to the ceiling and then back down into the regulator and filter. Well, maybe not up to the ceiling. I've got a different idea right now that I just thought of it. Probably going to have to get that a little bit straighter is what we'll do. So let's move forward with the next part of this, and that's going to be getting this turned around and piping this to get the regulator and the water filter connected to it so that we can really run it to not only the tool, not only the ATC, but also the X-Air Vortex tube that I have. X-Air adjustable spot cooler. That's going to cool the bit when I'm cutting aluminum. So this is all going to be connected. I don't want to obviously run water to that either. Awesome, let's move forward. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So the next part of the project was to get the compressors connected to where I could then not only feed the ATC, but also feed our vortex tube. So let's take a look and see what I've done here. I basically added a ball valve here so I'd be able to turn off everything just with one valve. It came with a galvanized union here against the wall. And why the vertical run? Well, let's talk about that. The vertical run is there because, and those are 3-foot long pipes there with a 4-foot pipe there to the regulator and the particle and moisture filter, because I want to trap water in the vertical run. It's going to be really hard for moisture to get up in vertical. So I've got a 3-foot, I've got 7 feet of total vertical run here that moisture would have to get through just before it even gets to the regulator particle and moisture filters. Okay, out of those two outlets, I'm going to be able to power the ATC, which is here. I'm going to run that water remover as well, just because I have it. And we'll be able to power the ATC with that. I don't want any moisture going into any of that work. And then I've got the vortex tube here, and we're going to connect that. And that, I probably showed you that earlier as well, if I haven't. It's a green hose coming here, connected to the vortex tube. And that's really just going to be for cutting aluminum. Be able to keep that nice and cool. Okay, so the next step, and I just spent today, well, part of today, piping all of this, and I'll tell you the combination of tape and the True Blue just is great. I will actually pressurize all of this whenever I come back. It'll be a day or two for sure, and make sure that there are no leaks, and we'll make sure that the regulator and filters are all working, but I'm pretty confident that it is. So looking good. We'll pick this up. Okay, so we have the piping done, and what I've done is I've got the 2 air compressors turned on. I've run 3/8 hose all the way to both the ATC and to the vortex tube. And let's now test to see if we have any leaks. I'm just going to open these valves as we go. So far, so good. That makes sense. The two tanks will equalize. First time I'm pressurizing any of this. And the compressors are turned on. Good. I don't hear any leaking at all anywhere. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to adjust the regulator because we've got nothing going there. Okay, so I have the regulator opened, and let's give it some air. So I've got both of the compressors pretty well dialed in terms of where I want them to start and stop. I have the feed going to the ATC and the feed going to the vortex tube coming down, tied off fairly well. I'll show that to you when I walk around. Let's take a look at the regulator feeding the machine. Yeah, we've got air going to everything there. 115 or so PSI. That's going to be plenty. Let's take a look at what we've done down here. I think this video is pretty much wrapped up at this point. So, got the dryer that's feeding the vortex tube, and we're coming to the ATC that's here, and its own regulator. Yeah, so we'd have to turn that on to get PSI here. We're not ready to start the work for the day. Vortex tube works well. It obviously is meant to blast air, cool air down. That we'll be testing with aluminum in the next couple of weeks. This is why this is here, and we're going to be able to see exactly what's happening. I've got that opened up. I've got good air coming out of here. That's certainly cooler. And that's it. I think what I'll do is, before we start unrolling this video, I'll get a little bit further down the road and see how the performance is of everything. And the only thing that I might change will be the trigger points as to where these pumps turn on, which obviously, which maybe not obviously, but it affects where they turn off. Right now I have them restarting at about 110 PSI or so. I think the problem is going to be that my air consumption is not going to exceed that. So there's always going to be one compressor running and the other one will actually never kick on. So I think what I'm going to do is lower the start point for both of these so that they're sharing the load, running equally, not one running all the time and the other really never having to turn on. So that is going to be the next test, and we will report back. Thank you. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So in our daily setup routine, I did discover that I have a little bit of a problem. Let me show it to you. We've got the ATC, we've got air going to the ATC. The ATC is home, or the spindle is home, exactly where it needs to be. It's got air. The vortex tube is not on, but you'll notice that the compressor just turned on. So let's watch what happens. Well, actually what happened was this one turned on. It'll turn off in a moment. Now it's this one. Let's give it a little bit of help to show you how it turns back on. Oh, I've got it turned off. Air from this unit over to this one to illustrate the current situation. You'll notice that we blew that relief valve. So we're definitely going to have to lower the threshold on this stuff. We've blown the relief valve, and so we're going to need to lower our operating PSI a bit lower, so we're not triggering that. So that'll be the next thing that I do. In fact, I'm going to do it right now, and then we'll test further. So I've made an adjustment to where the unit will start. So let's get some air flowing out of it to test our pressure relief valve. I'm going to bleed some air off. Okay, so we hit at about 125 PSI and didn't pop the relief valve. So I think I'm going to leave it right there, and we're going to see what happens with everything we've got going here. Okay, just a little bit of an update. So I did have to adjust the point at which the second compressor started and therefore turned off, because it was throwing more air into this tank, causing its relief valve. So let's see where we are. Let's let these both run naturally. This one's probably not going to kick on at all. Let's bleed some air off. That one turned on first, and that's because its threshold is set higher than this one. You're going to see when this hits its maximum whether or not it causes the first one's relief valve to go. That's the automatic drain expelling moisture. This is the one that's got the relief valve that I want to not trigger. I want to trigger either. Alright, so that's turned off at about 135 maybe. The relief valve hasn't been triggered. So I'm going to back this down a little bit, being very careful with this. We'll bleed some air off. This one will probably turn on first. can actually lower this one another turn, I would say. Realizing that we're not going to get them to run at the same time. Turns off at about 120, whatever. Let's bleed some air and let's see how they both start. Close that valve. Let's get this one a little bit closer. They're both pretty close. What's interesting is they don't truly balance, or the regulators are not actually accurate. They don't truly balance. Just a hair over 90. Yeah, so that's pretty accurate right there. I'm going to zip these up and then we'll report back if there's any change. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So both units are running 120 psi right about there. They should be both turning off really soon. That one turned off. Okay, this one's not going to turn off because the vortex tube is running. Let's bleed the air again and let's see when the second one kicks in. We've tested it where it turns on at about 90. I just want to verify it. That's a good part of this video. Right at about 90, the second one should turn on. Lower this a little bit again. trigger a restart. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Yeah, it turned on. They were pretty well balanced as far as I can tell. Pretty well balanced. This run and see how it naturally works when there's a substantial amount of air draw coming out of it, and I'll report back if it's necessary to do so. So with the compressors balanced very nicely, I think the final chapter in this is going to be running the tubing to bleed the moisture off. I've got it coming out of the regulator, and I've got it out of the water filter. Both of the compressors have an auto drain on it. I will show that to you. Auto drain there. I've not changed any of the settings. I've not recognized enough water being left over. I've got the tubes running from each of the auto drains into this Y connector. I've got 3 tubes here that you can see. One is from the regulator water collector. One is from both of the tanks, and then the third is from over here. Okay, from our ATC. I've got all this tube getting snuck underneath the overhead door, and right outside it goes. I'm going to set up the tripod. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to activate so you can see it. That's what it'll look like. And we've got water coming out. So that's going to complete us here on this compressor project. So what have I learned over the several, quite frankly, weeks? This has probably been a 3-week long process. ShopBot and their specification for the California Air 260 CADs was spot on. Perfect. I don't need 2 of them. 1 would work absolutely. But I bought 2 because I was initially admittedly concerned that blasting enough cold air onto the workpiece, because I will be cutting aluminum, and in fact, the very next project that I'm continuing with is a custom threshold that's going to be made out of aluminum. A lot of aluminum cutting, and I don't want to weld the aluminum to the bit, so lots of cold air. I was genuinely concerned about one compressor, because it's a 20-gallon tank, being able to give to have the reserve of air available. But these motors on the 260 CADs just keep pumping the air. But 2 compressors has the added benefit that I can do other stuff at the same time. I don't plan on having two tools together. But if I needed to do some other air operation, air cutting with a grinder, or filling up someone's car tire, anything else, a sprayer or painting, an air grinder in the shop, I've got an adequate quantity of compressors, or at least CFM, to be able to do the job.
So the platform worked out really great. That was a bit dicey. The piping ended up working out really great. That was a little dicey. The combination of tape and True Blue was, I had seen one or two people comment that that's how they do it, and I wouldn't do it any other way. Tape on the male end, True Blue on the female end. I wouldn't use anything else, only because I'll get the True Blue. So on the male end, it was always this. I had also said, so male end, OD fast tape, True Blue on the female end, vibration resistant. I had said that you rotate it, you turn the tape towards you. When the threads are on your left side, turn it towards you. When the threads are on your right side, you do it the opposite way. So that when you're tightening, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, you're not peeling the threads off. So that would be important to do that so that you're not undoing your work. But it worked really great. The tape is solid. The True Blue hardened to the point where there's no seals, no leaking seal at all. And the leaking that you hear is just the ATC running on the top of the spindle, 5-6 feet from where I'm sitting. And I'm looking at the apparatus. The vertical run, I had taken the advice of the person that I bought the regulator, the filter, and somewhere they had made a comment that if you really want to eliminate water coming through your line, you got to run it vertical. So I initially was going to go all the way to the ceiling. It's probably 14.5 feet. I thought that was a bit inelegant. I wanted to keep it more petite, so I just decided to do that. Plus, I would have to be standing on a ladder. So that worked out really well. Wide brass, was a small amount. I had some brass left over, so I was just going to use brass 1/2-inch pipe and then went to galvanized everywhere else, leading up to where the 3/8 hoses are going to the inlets themselves. This whole setup here is, believe it or not, temporary. All of this is going to get moved to a different location about a 1/2 mile away at some point, likely next year. And everything will get set up a second time, but nothing I've done here is permanent. Everything will just get disassembled and riggers will be hired and the heavy stuff will be moved. You don't need to move the heavy stuff. I've got a fork truck, but I want to hire riggers to move it so as to have the insurance, not only the physical insurance, but the mental insurance of people moving a heavy tool, expensive tools that are getting paid to do it and getting paid to do it for their expertise is what I'm driving at. So I don't believe there's anything to talk about the platform itself. The tool right now is a 4x8 ShopBot PRS Alpha. Right now it's got one Becker pump on it. The second Becker pump has arrived. There are going to be two of them Y connected. I want to pull more air. I want to be able to fixture pieces down, like this aluminum threshold I'm going to make is going to be about 14-inch wide and 4 foot long. I want that to stay right on the table as best as possible. So a second Becker pump. I actually have a second shop box that I'm going to install at some point. And then I have a cyclone that I'm going to add to between the tool and the shop bot. I'm going to put a cyclone so I can collect the heavier particles in that, because I find that I have found that surfacing or the heavy pocketing, I filled up a bag really quickly. And quite frankly, it's 25 minutes of emptying a bag to put the new bag on the bottom of the shop box. And it's just, I want to spend less time doing maintenance and more time just tool pathing and letting the machine run. Can't think of anything else. Thank you for being part of this video.
Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.